Okay, this point was ground into this shape. As you can see right there, how that's smooth. If you get in there, now I don't have the ability to magnify this and, view, focus on it with the camera, but there is evidence of grinding in order to shape that point. Also, inside here, if you look at this edge, look closely, you're going to see chipping on this edge. You see that? Okay. Okay. This tool is held like this. Like I said, these flakes were done for ergonomics. It's just that grip, that simple. Okay. Now and these things were swung like this. Now, if you know anything about ergonomic principles and all, there's a section of the hand which will be the most muscular part of the hand in here, which is where you can absorb the most shock. Okay? And that is this part of the stone. You can see it smooth here. That's where it contacts your hand into where, you can absorb that shock. Okay? And it was swung in this manner. And whatever they were doing, I can't tell you exactly whether breaking bone, possibly, tortoise shell, who knows. But it was the sharper edge here that they were actually kind of cutting, they were piercing and breaking through something. And that's what this chipping here, and it's to the inside of the swing, you see. So it's coming down in this manner. It's kind of an arc. Okay. Now, I can argue that, this isn't a stunt or a tool, but thing is, I can show you at least 100 examples of the exact same thing. Okay. See this? How this is curved here. Now, you see how it's higher on this side than this side. That higher side will always go to the outside of this area on the hand, the finger. It will be on the outside edge, okay? The ergonomics are pretty much the same. Okay, now, as you can see, this point was also ground into shape here. And if you look closely, you will see chipping, which is wear pattern right here. It's the same thing, okay? See, it's a combination of things. I mean, there is, alteration by man. In this case, there's some grinding and all this stuff. This big chunks. These aren't, this is not flint, okay? So when you knock these chunks out, they're not going to look like perfect, conchoidal fractured flake removals. But you can see where this one was actually taken from this way. So, I mean, we're not talking about prepared platforms and or prepared cores. These are just, stone tools, man. But I can tell you, it was actually taken from this direction because it stair steps right there. It dives in. That's what, if you know anything about, flint knapping, that's just how it goes. You hit it hard enough, it's going to dive in. That energy is going to dive in. When it does, it leaves what we call a stair step. And of course, when it comes to, there's a lot of other alteration, but we're not talking about portable rock art here. We're talking about Lithics, man. North American stone tools. Like I said, I can show you hundreds, maybe thousands of examples, because I'm telling you, I've studied thousands of stone tools. This is, to me, this was all about high volume study. Okay. The more evidence I can study, the more I can figure these patterns out, because there are patterns that aren't necessarily visual patterns, but eventually they will become that if you study them long enough. But it is patterns of ergonomics, functionality, and wear. Okay, and you combine all those, and yeah, it's a damn stone tool. I don't care what you say, it is a stone tool. Look at this. Okay, see this? Yeah, some grinding there, shaping. See how that's smooth? The rest of this rock is just that might have been actual cortex, but it's likely it was ground into shape because it comes out here to this edge. See, this is your sharper edge. Okay, this one's kind of blunt, broken off. So actually, this provides structural integrity for the functionality by having it's more of a triangle anyways, but and this is the edge that would have hacked through whatever it was they're doing. And now if you look at the ergonomics and the top of this, you see it's kind of higher on this side, but we already know the sharp edge was to the inside of the swing, and that tells me, of course, this was a left-handed tool. And it is a left-handed tool. In fact, I will tell you that it is likely near 20% of all the stone tools I have studied are left-handed tools. And the ergonomics are just spot on, and they will tell you that. Here's another. Basically the same thing. Okay, we got our sharp point. We have our sharper edge with chipping and wear, and triangulated. See this broad side here, it's just structural integrity. And the ergonomics, there's been a flake removal there, one here, and kind of rounded this out to where, and this as well is a left-handed tool. And they're perfect fits, and they'll do the job. Like I said, there are so many examples, and some of them are so damn old. I mean, but here's one. This one I believe is Jasper. Okay, and oh, looky there, a little portable rock art, possibly. Oh, a little more portable rock art. There's quite a bit actually on this stone. You can see these flake removals. This is definitely done by man. Okay, same principle. Point, sharper edge, broad edge. Okay. It tells me, hey, look at that. That's how that one was used. Same thing, same stroke, the same wear is going to be on the inside of the stroke, same ergonomics, and it's going to be a comfortable fit. I'm telling you, I don't think there's any of these tools that a guy can use all day long and never produce a blister. That's how spot on this stuff is. And yes, I do know a little bit about lithic reduction. Stone tool. How do I know? Well, it's got all those things I talk about, but right here, that's pretty obvious. See this? Flake, flake, flake. You call it retouch, call it wear, whatever you want to. I'd say, and I've forgotten, I've assessed, these things have been around. I've 4 years, okay, I've spent on these tools. But I have assessed that, and I don't recall. I believe this is actually wear. Those chips are actually wear. Those weren't retouched. Those are actual wear. And look here. See how they're rounded and smooth across the top? This was for chopping. And looks like, with the angle, it was chopping away. Like, this could have been used like sharpening spears, whatnot. Could have been used for woodworking. But yeah, these are definitely tools. Here's another. Well, obvious, pretty obvious. You can see how the flakes were taken out. And of course it comes down to the same thing. It's kind of triangular. And if you look close, the actual wear is on this portion. And once again, ergonomics. And that portion was the inside of the stroke. Okay. It's not rocket science. I mean, that's just common freaking sense. I mean, you know, erosion, wear, turbulent water delivery doesn't create square corners. Okay. Now I got a lot of stones like these, and I can tell you that, quite frankly, these were actually cores. Okay. They began as cores, and they removed flakes, which they created tools with. Okay, once you get down so far, well, the core also becomes useful. See a lot of battering here, but I believe the corners were used. Let's see, I've got a better example. Hang on, let me find it real quick. Okay, there we go. It's another example. See how you have your squared edges, and these were just flakes that were removed. Okay, but once it gets down so far, then what do we do with it? Oh, look at that. See that? Yep. This is battering. These are hammerstone. But originally I believe it was first a core. Okay. I can tell you not all this stone even belongs here where I find it. But let's see. I had probably the first time I realized what I was looking at as far as stone tools, where I found these two items approximately 10 miles apart, right here in my immediate region, which now I got to tell you, this region, geologically speaking, is Cretaceous sandstone. Okay, that means, yeah, this was once covered by ocean. Okay, and I'm right in the center of the United States here in Kansas. Okay, but I found these two like 10 miles apart. It was the same day, so, and I got a pretty good memory when it comes to things I see, and I happen to note, wow, those things are so similar. When I picked the second one up, I was like, I'm sure I had one just like that earlier. And sure enough, these are real similar. You can see the shape of these stones. And now, a lot of this is grinding. But these were held like this. So, and if you can see, this chip comes this way. Okay. Now, I can't guarantee if this was actual wear, if this was later. I would say that, well, this was original. I think that's actual. This may have been later, but I would say it would be consistent, because if it was positioned this way and they're striking this way, and like I said, with that natural arc, you're going to knock your chip out from the back side. Same thing here. That chip was knocked out from the back side. But these were also, they have this edge, which I'm not certain was a scraping edge or whether they were actually, used like a hand axe or for chopping or for wood or what have you. But they were used, and they were tools. Okay. And some of the stuff, like I said, it gets really old, and you know, archaeologists are definitely going to dispute that, you know, this stuff is actual tools, because it's definitely going to, you know, wreak a little havoc on their little Solutrean hypothesis. Now, I'm not going to tell you that that Dennis Stanford is wrong about his, you know, about the Atlantic trip and you know, Solutreans, you know, those Europeans, you know, crossing the Atlantic, the ice, whatever, the last glacial maximum or whatever they want to call it. I'm not going to say that they didn't get here that way, but I'm going to tell you for damn sure they were not the first Americans. No freaking way were they the first Americans. The people that made these things, they were the first Americans, and these things are old. I can tell you, you know, I've studied the patination processes of so many different types of stone that, you know, I find a lot of different, you know, they used a lot of different types of stone. And I can go forwards and I can go backwards and show you that they were here a long time. I can show you the progression of some of these tools, how they evolved, you know. Look at this. Just a stone, right? Just a rock, okay? But, you know, I know a little bit about this kind of stone. If you look here, see this little kind of glossy area, or you see this distinct line right there. Well, this is broken away right here, okay? And I can tell you that there were chips taken here and here. And it took me a while to figure this one out. I mean, I really, when I first found this, it was not, I thought it was just portable rock art, because, I can't even show you why. I think it was like a facial imagery or something. But and then I looked further on this stone, and I noticed that, well, it gets kind of skinny down here and almost sharp. Well, and I figured this out. See, same principles, ergonomic principles, where, you know, where you're going to be able to absorb that shock with the hand, okay? It's got to fit comfortably. You don't want to, you know, get a blister or hurt yourself, you know. It's got to be comfortable, and it is, okay? Now you look down here, and you'll see this chipping in both directions off of the sharper edge. You betcha. It's called wear evidence, okay? It is wear patterning, and that is exactly how that was used, okay? Exactly how that was used. And even the chipping, I mean, I study this stuff, and with the ergonomics and the impacts, and, you know, how it is, and these flakes, like I showed you on these other tools, you know, how the wear patterning is going to match, you know, with the ergonomics and the stroke, and how, you know, the tool was actually used. And the wear patterning matches, you know, with the arc of the stroke and everything. These things match, okay? Stone tool. Here's one I've had for a long time. And I was never real too sure about it, but, you know, it's just a stone. But, you know, we got a chunk missing here. We got a chunk missing here. And then we got several chunks. I call this retouch. Retouch. And, you know, if you get in there, you'll probably discover that there's also wear. And, well, this chip right here, see that one? I doubt that was I think that was wear. But they knocked these out, okay? And you got this one and this one. Well, these are ergonomics, okay? See this? This was used like sharpening spears or something to that effect. Like I said, you got your business edge here, your functionality. You've got your ergonomics, this finger, your middle finger. And most these stone tools, you can boil it down to thumb and 2-finger ergonomics. And these 2 fingers are mostly in the way most of the time. As a matter of fact, some of the hammer stones are kind of humorous, but some of the hammer stones actually have like a little shelf for these fingers to go up on. And what's funny about that is, that was like an afterthought, because somebody ended up getting their fingers crushed, and then so they decided they'd put a little place to rest them, so they didn't get down there, in the business zone. But I mean, there's a good one. This is a good one. This is just a rock, man. Like, look at this thing. Nothing but a rock. If you look, there's coloration differences, and you can tell, what's taking place here. And there was some really heavy strikes to taking this out here. But anyways, it all boils down to, sure enough, if you look here, we have a point, broadside. We have the sharp side. Look in there. Oh, look, there's some wear chippage on the sharper side of this. And it's the same thing as these other tools I've been showing you here. It's the same thing. The inside of the stroke where the chipping is. But, that's like, that is not a conchoidal fracture. I guarantee you that. But it was definitely done by man, and it was definitely a tool. And there was alterations for ergonomic fit. One of the big alterations, that is very common, is index finger placement. And there was one here for that. And that's this big chunk removal here, which is index finger placement. And, the big chunk that was taken out, thumb placement. As a matter of fact, there's another chunk out here. That's my middle finger placement. And perfect ergonomics, functionality, and wear. So, put all that together, what's it equal? Stone frickin' tool. Duh. Okay? This stuff, you get really funky. Look at something like this. It's like, you're not going to see a lot of obvious, flake removals. There's one off the top. And that was for ergonomics. I already know without having to go through it again. At this one, look at that. Huh. What was that? Shadowy facial imagery. Yeah, we weren't going there, were we? This is also, I believe, a lefty. Pretty certain. Yeah, I am certain this was a lefty because of the fit. Well, yeah, for sure. This was a lefty. Okay. But, like I said, this stuff is not rocket science, man. It's just paying attention. Look at the stuff rather than dismiss it just because you don't believe it fits the narrative. Yeah, well, the narrative is flipping wrong, and it has been for a long time, and it's screwed up the whole world worth of, human origin science, because this stuff does not exist, according to the scientists who are not really scientists, They're not. And we're talking about, let's go ahead and name some names. I already talked about Dennis Stanford. Stanford, get a life. Mike Waters. Oh man, yeah, that's the first guy who actually, the guy who unwittingly threw his colleagues under the bus. Yeah, that's him. And when it comes to evidence, anything that contradicts their beliefs, which, originally started out with Alice Hrdlicka, his original belief was that man arrived 3,000 years before present. Okay, well, we know that got shot to hell, don't we? Okay? But if you keep looking, even with Clovis, you know what? That was not an archaeological discovery. It was discovered by a paleontologist, okay? These guys actually do exploration, and they search and they find things, you know? Archaeologists have never explored and searched for this stuff. They claim they have, but since 1920, what's the point, okay? Because, well, you know, man arrived here. And that's the big thing right there. Because I'm telling you, these tools and the sheer number of them tells me there's a whole different story that we need to be looking at. Not this out of Africa, whatever the hell you think, because it's all wrong. Without this evidence, everything they speculate right now means nothing. Absolutely nothing. Here, I'm going to teach you a little bit. Okay, this is called pecking and grinding. Take a look at this. It's flat, except for the pits, okay? Normal stone doesn't just have pits and flatness. It's you know, up and down, up and down. This is pecking and grinding. What they do is they peck at it with a hard stone, you know, to break up that surface, and then they grind it to flatten it out. I mean, it's not rocket science, but I'm going to show you something that all archaeologists need to understand that they've missed because I guess they're just not bright enough to figure this out. You see this stone? Yeah. The stone has had some hammering done to it, okay? And the reason being is they needed to remove this material here. And you can see, if you take a good look here, you can see multiple strikes that were kind of high on the platform and hard, you know. And I can relate to the guy that was creating this because there comes to a point, and it's right between determination and frustration, okay? And you're gonna either remove what needs to be removed, or this thing's gonna end up in several pieces. And you can see that he struck so hard and so high on the platform, it actually cracked this piece all the way through. See that crack went all the way through this piece. However, it didn't ruin it. He still got what he needed removed. Why did he need to remove that? For ergonomics. This middle finger placement, okay? You see another little flake taken out here? That was for my index finger placement. Now, why is that? Well, if you look here, you see some more flaking done here. That's because the sharp business end was under here. It's a cutter. As a matter of fact, it was their main cutting tool. For the most part, they were ripping. It's like a modern day gut hook. I mean, we just figured it out, 20 years ago, when they started appearing on all the, you know, hunting knives and such, that gut hook feature. And hey, guess what? You don't really have to even sharpen the damn thing. It just works all the time because of the angle that it's at. But it's just the principle of the thing. And it's ergonomics. Because I can tell you, I can take this right here and I can develop more pressure. Because, you know, we're not talking about super retouched, you know, edges and resharpening these super sharp. And we're not using, here's another name, John Shea, you know, he's like the archaeologist flint napper guy, right? If you ever seen these lectures, he starts out with a piece of volcanic glass, which is obsidian. He starts out with a piece of that stuff. It does have razor sharp edges, and he demonstrates that by shaving his legs or whatnot, you know. And it's like, hey, I'd like to hand him a piece of limestone and have him field dress a game animal with it. Let's see how he does with that. Because they didn't all start with you know, volcanic glass. I mean, unless they were ordering it on the internet to wherever they wanted, because it only occurs in a few places here in North America, you know. So it wasn't readily abundant. It sure as wasn't where I'm at. I can guarantee you that, okay? This was a cutter. That's how they did it, okay? I'm telling you here, we'll we'll go forward in time a bit. Here's one that's pretty damn obvious, even to, you know, an archaeologist. This is pretty obvious that, yeah, this was unifacial. You know, what is that? You know, what is that? Oh, it's a damn tool, and it was used like this. You see this flat, this flake that was taken out of there? That's my index finger placement. Here's my middle finger placement. Here's my thumb placement, and you used it like this. It was ripping. Also, you have this round edge. Hey, I bet you any outdoorsman hunter that actually processes his own game and all that, they'll tell you what this curved, rounded, sharp edges are for. They can tell you that. Well, but I'm not going to give it away. I'll let archaeologists try and figure that one out for themselves, okay? But that's a tool. Listen, like I said, advance in time, and we're still using the same damn principles, okay? See that? Same damn principle. It's a gut hook. Look at it. It was flaked out as a gut hook. Look at there. Oh, ergonomics. Are you kidding me? Look at that little flake there. Index finger placement. See that? Thumb placement. It was a gut hook. It's used for ripping. That's how they cut. Okay? Now, there's two stages of this. You can have an exposed sharp edge, like here on the bottom would have been sharp. But, you know, it's for slitting. Because they didn't resharpen this stuff, you know. The only way to resharpen is re-break it. Yeah, why ruin a tool? These hooks, these are game. Okay, eventually we move up to this. Now this is chert. Okay, this doesn't belong here because this comes from 80 miles down frickin' stream. Okay, this is